but we'll start seated. This morning I read an old talk by Joseph B. Wirthlin, called Live in Thanksgiving Daily. And that's one of my favorite sayings from the Book of Mormon. It's that we need to live in Thanksgiving daily. And I've been thinking about the different emotions and how they relate to each other. This emotion of gratitude, what that feels like. And so I invite you just to come to a seat and sit tall. You can have your eyes opened or closed, either way. Think the word gratitude. Or remember a time where you felt gratitude. And see if you can just notice what that feels like in your body. And then I invite you to feel grief, to feel some loss, a sense of loss or sadness. And you may be able to think of an experience in your life where you felt that sense of loss. I think one of the things that the polarities in life teaches us is that we need all of it. We can't really fully experience a sense of gratitude without having experienced some grief and loss. That sometimes sadness is the gateway for us to open up to more joy. And in his talk that I read this morning, Elder Wirthlin said there are 3 things that we can do to live in Thanksgiving daily. The first is just to open our eyes. He says, we often take for granted the beauty of the world, the flowers, the trees, the birds, the clouds, and even those that we love. Because we see these things so often, we see them less and less. It's that ability to open our eyes and see things new, and that allows us to live more in Thanksgiving. He says the second thing is to open our hearts. And I really find that invitation to feel and say yes to all of it, that ability to totally honor, inhabit, and feel any grief or loss, so that we can open our hearts even greater to a sense of gratitude and amazement and wonder and awe. And the third thing is to open our arms and to serve. It's all very simple. And so I invite you now just to start to deepen your breath and breathe in and out of your nose. And see if you can use your diaphragm. On Friday, we have worked on some pelvic floor stability and mobility. See if you can feel that mirroring of your pelvic floor and your diaphragm as you sit tall, and let those top and bottom layers of your cylinder of that trunk be parallel with each other. And see if they can be responsive to your breath without any rigidity. Let yourself feel a sense of opening and expanding with your inhale, drawing in and up with your exhale. Just inhale, reach your arms overhead, take a big breath in, and then exhale, just let your hands come to your heart. Just really play with the movement of your shoulders here, just connecting that big arm movement, sweeping arms up, and exhaling arms down, just with your breath. And then open your arms into a cactus. We worked on Friday that we need to be able to move our pelvis and spine independently. That's kind of that lower part of that container of our trunk. And let's work now this morning on some thoracic spine movements. So just in your rib cage, see if you can just shift your rib cage to the right and then just shift your rib cage to the left, trying to keep your pelvis still, and just shift to the right and shift to the left. Just little movements there. After you've gone to the left, find another opening, and then just give yourself a big hug. Doesn't matter which arm is on top here, and tuck your chin. And see if you can just find some tiny circles, just moving in your thoracic spine. So your lower back and your pelvis will stay still. As you hug here, you can lean over to the side and then lean forward, just round forward, and then over to the side, and then lift your heart. But think about keeping that pelvis and lower back still as you just make little circles here, moving in that upper spine. And then open out your arms and see if you can switch the cross of your arms, and then see if you can find your circles in the other direction. It might take a little bit of brain work there. And then release. I'm just gonna rock ourselves forward into a low lunge. I'm gonna move my blanket out of the way. And just this 90-degree lunge here. And find some movement in your pelvis first. See if you can move forward and back. So find this anterior tilt, sticking your tailbone back, and then a posterior tilt, drawing your pubic bone forward. And then find stillness and stability there in your pelvis. And give yourself a hug again. And just find that little bit of movement in your thoracic spine without moving your lower back or your pelvis. And then release that effort. And we'll just find our tandem kneel. So you'll toe heel that right foot in line with your left knee. And just turn on those deep core muscles. So we're just looking for some responsiveness in that transverse abdominis, that deep, deep lowest layer of your belly. And all those little muscles, your multifidi, that thread through your spine, that keep you stable. And also notice what your pelvic floor needs to do here. And just let it all be responsive and finding your balance. Now lift that right heel and maybe float up off that right foot and come to kneeling. And just switch sides. Left foot forward and find a stance that you can balance. And again, just find some movement in your pelvis. Just forward and back. You can even go in circles side to side. Turn on my clock. But just find that movement there. And then give yourself a hug again after you found a neutral place for your pelvis. Either arm on top, just see if you can remember and do the other one. And just little tiny movements in your thoracic spine, just circles. And then release. Arms wherever you want them to be, just toe heel that left foot in line with your right knee. And just feel all that responsive muscle action to hold you upright here on your little tightrope. So just keep your balance and see if you can find an equilibrium between effort and ease, letting your body stay here. And then float that left heel up. See if you can root down into your right shin to maybe float your whole left foot up off the floor. Come slowly to kneeling. And now I'm just going to play with coming all the way up to standing and coming back down to the floor. And just do it as many different ways as you can. You can start just stepping one foot forward and coming up. And then maybe just coming back down to a kneel. Maybe you come all the way to your seat. Maybe lead with the other leg. Next time, see if you can come all the way down. Maybe crossed ankles to come up. Maybe come all the way down with crossed ankles. Just play. Use your hands as much as you need to. Just coming up and down off the floor. And just we're playing with all of that responsive muscular action. See if you can do it different ways. And if you lose your balance and have to use your hand, then so be it, right? Just play. Like if I want to get up with a straight leg, nope, not gonna happen. So just come up and down a few more times. all the way down to the floor, all the way up to standing. Maybe through a squat. And then we'll meet all the way up in a standing position. Feel your feet on the floor and remember that relationship of your diaphragm to your pelvic floor. See if you can really stack your ears over your shoulders, shoulders over your hips, hips over your ankles. And feel the relationship, of your diaphragm and pelvic floor to your breath. So notice if you tend, when you're standing, to clench anything or suck in your belly. And see if you can let them be responsive to the needs of what's happening. Standing still, right? You need the support to stand tall, but also not a whole lot, right? You can relax your belly, relax your pelvic floor. And it's important that you can do both and that you're not always sucking in. So we talked about, that toothpaste action. If we're always sucking our belly in, all of those organs need to go somewhere and they're going to be pushed down. So really let your belly be responsive to what's needed. Tuck your chin and then just let yourself roll down just through your thoracic spine. So just your rib cage spine. And then come on up. And do that a couple more times. Roll just through your thoracic spine. And then lean over to your right. And then let your thoracic spine twist to the right. And let your heart come up toward the ceiling. Lean to the left. Let yourself twist to the left. And then roll forward. So kind of find these a little bit bigger circles through that thoracic spine. And your arms can just kind of hang here. Go one more time in that direction and then we can switch. So you're going to find that lateral flexion and the twist. And that forward flexion. And then just switch sides. A little bit of extension. But try to kind of keep those lower ribs dropped down. We're just moving that rib cage spine. And after you feel equal on both sides, just pause. Inhale and reach high. Exhale, fold forward over your legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, left foot back into a lunge. Exhale that left knee down and find some movement of your pelvis here. Sway from side to side, forward and back. And then make your way to table. Do a couple of slow cat and cow, leading with your tailbone. You can find that posterior tilt. And just imagine you can move one vertebrae at a time. Just at least bring your awareness to that. And lead with your tailbone both ways. As you go into extension and lifting your heart, head will be last. And as you go into flexion, rounding everything. After you've done 2 or 3 of those, find a neutral place And just find movement of your shoulder blades. So drawing your shoulder blades together and pushing them apart. So now our spine, our rib cage is moving independently of our shoulder blades. You can play with circles there. And then release your forearms to the floor. I'll do my left side first. I'm going to bring my left hand behind my head and then open up into a twist. Now you might not get a whole lot of opening because we're just twisting here in that thoracic spine. And then exhale. Just tap your left elbow to your right elbow. And just move open and back. And do one last one on that side. And then switch. Just right hand behind your head. Open that elbow up to the side. And then elbow to elbow. Just tap. And you're just working that rib cage spine. And then release. Tuck your toes and then really untuck your pelvis. Lift your sitting bones up toward the ceiling. So a big forward tilt, anterior tilt. And then push your hips back towards your heels. And then come forward. Let's do that a few times. Now, if you have a yoga block handy, you can play here with balancing a yoga block on your sacrum so that you're really finding this hinge at your hips. And so as you push your hips back towards your heels, you're really untucking that tailbone and finding some space in your pelvic floor. Do one more push back, and then you can let it become a child's pose. You can untuck your toes. You're playing with that block balance. You can move it off. And just settle here. Feeling your diaphragmatic breath. So think about that rib cage expanding in all directions. And that mirroring responsiveness of your pelvic floor. So here in a child's pose, it's a lot like a squat. And your hips may not come all the way to your heels, and that's totally fine. Let's take one more breath there. And then tuck your toes. Make your way to your first downward facing dog. You can pedal out your legs. You can shift weight from one hand to the other. Maybe even just lift a palm and thumb as you shift from side to side. You can play with your shoulders here. Maybe circles of those shoulder blades. And then play with your pelvis. Play with the position of your pelvis. See if you can move that here. Come high onto your tippy toes, look forward. Bend into your knees and just make your way up to the top of your mat. Or your space if you're practicing in your bedroom with no mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and fold. Soften into your knees and then inhale yourself up just halfway and make your arms into a cactus. Let your heart open and really send those Hip creases back. Imagine you've got that balanced block on your sacrum. And then you can let yourself bow. Inhale, come up to that flat back, cactus arms, draw your shoulder blades together. And exhale to bow. 2 more times. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale yourself all the way to standing. Reach high. Exhale, hands to your heart. Now we'll move with our breath. Inhale and reach high. Exhale, fold forward over your legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, left foot back into a lunge. Exhale, left knee down. And then feel like you're drawing your legs toward each other. Come on up. Inhale and reach high. And then just reach your arms straight forward in front of you. With your left hand, just imagine you're like pulling a bowstring. So bend through that left arm and then reach it back behind you. And then just swim it forward to come back towards your right hand. And then we'll do that same thing with the right arm. Just feel like you're pulling a bowstring to open back out and then swim that arm forward. Just go back and forth there. So feel this happening through your thoracic spine. Now twist. Just go one more time on each side. And just let your hands come down inside that right foot. You can toe heel your right foot a little bit wider. Maybe sneak that left foot further back and just find some circling in your hips. Step your right knee back into a table. And take your knees wider this time and flex through your heels and find that sense of a squat. Really untucking your pelvis, sending your sitting bones back towards your heels and then forward. Now this may not feel like a lot of work, and that's okay. We're just working through that knee flexion, hip flexion, and your ankle flexion. And then let yourself pause, kind of like a crouching child's pose, and let your heart sink toward the floor as much as it wants to, with those wide knees, toes tucked. And then slide forward onto your belly, however that works. And just come into a sphinx. Tuck your chin and just round your upper back. And then reach your heart forward and feel like you're dragging your elbows back. And tuck. And extend. So our thoracic spine is naturally just a lot more stable. But it actually has more rotational capacity, twisting capacity, than like our lumbar. Our lumbar spine, our lower back, has more flexion and extension, and because it's just spine, right, it is a lot more mobile. But what happens is we let our upper back get too stiff. We don't move it. So just keep going here in these little cat-cows. And so then our lower back just takes all of the motion that our spine needs to do. If we have tightness and stiffness in our pelvis, tightness, stiffness in our shoulders and thoracic spine. All right, last time there. Keep your palms face down, or you can interlace your fingers and tuck your toes. Push down into your pubic bone and then just lift briefly into a forearm plank. See if you can find some relaxation through your pelvic floor. And then drop your knees down. Come up onto your hands so you're in a table. Tuck your toes and make your way to downward facing dog. Get out your wiggles. Inhale onto your tippy toes, look forward. Exhale, bend your knees, make your way up to the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. And then inhale, find those cactus arms come halfway up. So really engage between your shoulder blades. And then exhale to fold. Let your knees be as soft as they need to so that you can extend and hinge here at your hips and you're not feeling it overtaxing your lower back. And just open your arms. Let's do one more. Fold, and this time inhale all the way to standing. Reach high and then bring your hands to your heart. Inhale to reach high. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins or knees, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Right foot back into your lunge. Right knee down. And then inhale to reach high. Just let your arms come out in front of you and then pull that bowstring with your right arm. So you're going to find a big open twist to your right. Swim it back around. And then do that with your left. Open out and swim. And just go back and forth. Last time each side. And then let your hands come down inside that left foot. You can toe heel that left foot out to the left a little bit. Find some movement in your pelvis. Side to side in circles, forward and back. Just kind of stir around and let yourself find some mobility and openness there. Make your way back to your table with those wider knees and tucked toes. And push yourself back into that squat-like shape, or you can come all the way into a squat. And then just roll yourself forward. And just walk with your hands, so you can just be rocking still here. Just pay attention to what feels good in your lower back, or you can push into your squat. And I want you to notice the necessity of that thoracic spine, the mobility here. So it's not too taxing on your hips or your lower back. So wherever you are, if you're in that kind of child's pose place, you can drop your heart down, or just find yourself in your squat. You can rock a little from side to side. And then we'll make our way all the way to our bellies and come down. This time let your hands be alongside your chest. Push into your pubic bone and lift into a cobra, but think about it happening from your upper back. So you can keep your belly, maybe even your lowest ribs on the floor, pushing into your pubic bone and pushing into all 10 toes, and then lower. So just let this be just an upper back cobra. And you'll feel that it really takes some strength in your lower back muscles to help you find that extension. All right, go ahead and come on up. So your chest is still pretty heavy here, even though you're engaging shoulder blades toward each other, and then just float your hands up off the floor. So you're really drawing your shoulder blades together. Now you can plant your hands. Feel like you're pulling your hands back. You can lift up into a little bit higher cobra. And then tuck your toes. Downward facing dog. Pedal out what you need to. And then see if you can find some stillness. And return to that diaphragmatic breath here. Expanding through your rib cage. And letting your pelvic floor be a mirror of what's happening with that diaphragm. And you can even think of that breath tethered to your heart. That diaphragm muscle is really intimately and deeply connected to your heart. And so your breath is a heart massage. Where you hold gratitude. Inhale onto your toes, look forward. Soften your knees, make your way to the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale to fold. Inhale yourself all the way to standing, reach high. Exhale, hands to your heart. Just check in for a breath. Inhale, reach high. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, left foot steps back and find a high lunge this time. Float your hands back by your hips and really root down into that right heel. And then just lift your belly up off your thigh. Find some engagement through between your shoulder blades. Be a long line from that left heel out through the crown of your head. And then inhale, reach high. Come on up and settle. Now see if you can find some movement in your pelvis, side to side, forward and back. Right, and we don't have to be, we're in a position where obviously we're in some spinal extension. Our diaphragm and our pelvic floor are not going to be parallel here, which is fine. We're intentionally putting our body in a different shape. But I want you to still feel that responsive connection of your breath, the movement, and the ability of your pelvic floor to respond to the demands and move with your breath. Reach your arms forward and then find that bow and arrow action. Pull that left arm back and open and then swim it forward. Right arm back and open and swim it forward. Left arm back and swim it forward. Right arm back and swim it forward. And then here we'll find a deeper twist. You can bring your hands to your heart, bring left elbow outside right knee. You can bring left hand outside right knee, right hand to your sacrum. Think of the twist coming from your thoracic spine. It's going to happen in your lower back and in your pelvis. It's all involved. But see if you can let your heart open and twist through that rib cage. And then look down at your right foot. I'm going to step forward into a chair pose. So if you've got your elbow hooked, you can stay with that twist. If you've got your hand, stay with that twist. And just step your left foot forward and come into that twisted chair. Take a breath. And then unwind. Bring your hands to your heart and still sitting in your chair. Reach your arms high. And now just feel the relationship of your spine. Feel the responsiveness of your core, that hinge in your hips. What does your pelvic floor need to do here? Can you find its link to your diaphragm in that breath? And then bring your hands to your heart. Weight into your left foot, just float your right knee up towards your bum. And then extend it back, find warrior three. And just pause here. Feel your stability. Now we'll soften into that left knee and bring your right knee to the floor outside your left heel. Use your hands if you need to, but just like our sitting and standing we played with. And then find a seat. So left heel is outside your right knee. Rotate that left sitting bone down. You can wrap your right arm around that left knee and just twist here. And a few times you can kind of come out and back in to this twist. And then find a place to pause for a breath or two. Unwind. Leave your right knee where it is. Take your left leg and just swim it all the way around. And we'll find a really active, stable pigeon. So I want your right shin and the top of your foot on the floor. Right heel is pretty close to your pubic bone. And then feel like you're squeezing your knees toward each other and bring yourself pretty upright. And find some movement in your pelvis here. And find that tuck and maybe some extension. Notice how that moves your whole body. And then find that action of a posterior tilt. So really drawing your tailbone down and just hugging. You can stay here, or you can play with folding forward and coming back up. And folding forward, coming back up. Folding forward, coming back up. And then planting hands. Tuck your back toes. You can go to a plank or straight to downward facing dog. You can make your way to downward facing dog however you want. Maybe lower, lift your heart, downward facing dog. And just stay here. One more breath. And then inhale onto your tippy toes. Exhale, bend your knees, make your way to the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way to standing, reach high. Exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale and reach high. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, right foot back into your high lunge. Float your hands back by your hips and root down through that left heel. Engage through your left glute. And come on up. And reach your arms high. You can play with being able to move your pelvis here. And feel that link in your breath. Arms forward. Start with your right hand, just find that bow and arrow action. Open and around. And then open and around. Open. Open and around. Find your deeper twist. Hands to heart. Elbow outside right knee, or right hand outside that left knee. right elbow outside of left knee. That's what I meant to say. And then just see if you can let most of this twist feel like it's happening in that thoracic spine, in your rib cage. And then find that sense of length from your right heel out through the crown of your head. Look down at that left foot. Still step yourself forward into your twisted chair. And pause. Find your twist again. And then hands to heart. Reach your arms high. And feel your chair. And bring your hands in. And this time float your left heel towards your bum. And then lengthen that leg back to find your warrior three. Maybe straighten both legs. And then bend your right knee, left knee will come to the floor outside that right heel. And sit. Wrap your left forearm around that right knee, ground through your right fingertips behind you. Then you can turn and then back out of your twist a few times. And then you can find a place just to pause. Rock your right sitting bone toward the floor, lengthen up through the crown of your head. And then unwind. Swing that right leg back to find your active pigeon. So left shin's on the floor, your heel's pretty close to your pubic bone. Squeeze your knees together. Bring your torso upright. And just kind of feel what movement you can find in your pelvis, side to side, forward and back. And then play with either just staying here, using your hands as much as you need to, or fold and lift. Fold. Last time, lift, and then bring your hands down. Tuck those back toes. You can go to plank and move through your vinyasa to get to your downward facing dog, or straight to your downward facing dog. And when you get to your downward facing dog, find that investigation again. Feel the relationship of your diaphragm and your pelvic floor. And see if you can soften those lower ribs in toward your spine. Push the floor away. Find freedom in your neck. One more last breath here. And then bring your knees to the floor. Just cross your ankles behind you. Sit back. We'll set up for fire log pose. So it could be just crisscross applesauce with your right shin in front, really working on that sense of pelvic floor, diaphragm, parallel with each other. Pubic bone and tailbone, the line between those parallel with the floor. Okay. Or you can flex through that right foot and stack your right ankle on top of that left knee. Either way. And you may have some space here, and that's just fine. Let's start with a side bend over to the right. So plant your right hand, left hip is on the bottom. You're leaning away from your bottom hip. Just bring your hand behind your head, and then just find those little thoracic spine twists here. With that opening of your hip. And then you can let yourself stay in your side bend. You can kind of use the weight of your head in your hand to traction space between the ribs on your left side. And then go ahead, come on up here. And then lead with your heart to fold forward over your right shin any amount. You can let your hands come in front of you. Think about dropping your pubic bone down and lifting your tailbone back behind you, just like we did with the block on our sacrum when we're pushing back into child's pose. Maybe fold a little more, but think about the integrity in your spine. It doesn't need to be straight, right? It's rigid, it's bent, made to move, but you don't want one vertebrae to be bearing all of the fold. Right? You want them all to be involved. And then go ahead and come on up. Just bring your right hand outside of that right foot or your left knee and just find a twist that way. And then you can walk your hands over to the side and find a little bit of a fold in your twist. I kind of like to push my right elbow into my right foot and resist them into each other. And then go ahead and come on up. Just lean back, uncross your legs, windshield wiper from side to side. And then we'll switch. So left shin in front. And just think of staying active through your feet. And you can do the whole thing that we just did, like this. Or stack left ankle on top of right knee. And notice that it's my ankle stacked on top of my knee, not my foot. And there's not any sickling happening in my ankle. Right, my ankle and knee and everything are staying in a line with each other. We've got some action happening in that left foot. Okay. Left hand to the floor. So your right hip's down, you're leaning away from that bottom hip. And then hand behind your head. You can open and twist open. And then find that little sense of a twist closed. Just twisting through that thoracic spine. Open and closed. Open and closed. And open. You hold on to your head. You can let your head be heavy in your hand. And traction some space through that right line of your body. And then go ahead, come on up. And then lead with your heart. You can find a forward fold any amount. So it may just be really thinking about lengthening the front line of your body, pubic bone down and sternum lifting and reaching forward. And even just starting with that, you'll find some sensation. And think of that hip hinge and sending your tailbone back as you come forward. And then go ahead and come on up. Bring your left hand outside your left foot or that right knee. Find a twist here. And then maybe we'll find a folded twist. And come on up. Unwind yourself. Lean back. Windshield wiper those legs from side to side. Make your way onto your back. And set yourself up for a bridge pose, just one last heart opener. Symmetrical without any twisting. Draw your shoulder blades together. Push into the backs of your arms. Lift your hips. And you might pause before you get to your highest height and just see if you can sway, like kind of hammock, sway your spine from side to side a little bit. Just kind of loosen up before you get rigid. Just feel some freedom there and then maybe lift a little bit higher. You could interlace fingers underneath you or just grab the edges of your mat or really root your triceps down into the floor. And then find that relationship of your diaphragm and your pelvic floor as you breathe. And see if you can really find some expansion, a real sense of space for your breath here. How much work does your belly need to do to support you? Where is the work happening? Do you feel your glutes engaging? Back body, pushing down into your triceps. Space underneath your neck. If you've got your hands clasped, release your hands. Make your way. And you might just find that swaying from side to side as you hammock your way down. Back onto your back. Feet as wide as your mat. Just let your knees go side to side. And then find a happy baby pose. Just draw your knees in. Bring your hands to your outer feet. In this squatting shape on your back. And you can think of lengthening your sacrum to the floor. It's fine if it's not touching the floor. But you can find some grounding through the back of your head. Some resistance, hands into feet, feet into hands, and then any kind of rocking or wiggling that feels good. You can let go of any rigidity you found. Any tension. And then let yourself go. Find a good place to relax. Feet together, knees wide. Sounds like a good idea to me. If that's way too much for you, just legs long or knees bent, feet flat on the floor. You can find any support, a rolled blanket or some pillows underneath your legs, or even legs up a wall or onto a couch or up your bed. And then just bring one hand to your heart, one hand to your belly. At the beginning of class, we worked with the relationship of grief and gratitude. That they are interrelated. They balance each other and help the authenticity. Right? We feel real gratitude when we've experienced loss. But now I want you to feel a sense of desire. You have something that you really, really want. What is it to really want and desire something? What is it that you desire most? And in what ways do you already have it? Real potent gratitude comes from wanting what you already have. And can you just bring your awareness to your breath and your body? And can you find that feeling of just really wanting this body and this breath and this experience right now? And how does that sense of desire relate to a feeling of gratitude? Find any adjustments that you need in your position. And feel free to stay here for as long as you have time. And when you're ready, make your way to a comfortable seat. My invitation for you today is to just move through the day wanting what you have. The divine light in me honors the divine light in you. Namaste.